Now, can you see the screen?
We see the screen. We see also your the next diapo.
Ah, I don't know why it's
Yeah.
doing like this.
So we can begin like that.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Florian Lefebvre. I am a researcher, temporary one-year researcher at University of Montpellier at the moment. And I will present you a paper that is under revision in Journal of Media Business Studies that I've done with Nicolas Besson and Nicolas Chanava. So the paper is entitled Analysis of the Interaction Among Core Stakeholders of the Olympic Media Ecosystem, Condition for a Value Creation Proposition of the Olympic Virtual Series. So in introduction, I want to say that the Olympic Virtual Series is one of the last events created by the IOC after the Olympic Summer, the Olympic Winter Games, the Paralympic Games, and the Youth Olympic Games in 2010. The Olympic Games, they are still considered like the biggest hypermedia event in the world, but they are facing some crisis in the Olympic movement at many different levels, like doping, corruption, environmental level, health, and social level. And all of this leads to the erosion of the Olympic values. So in this context, in 2021, the IOC launched with five international sporting federations, the Olympic Virtual Series, which was an online competition on baseball, sailing, cycling, rowing, and motorsports game. Still in the introduction, Muller and collaborator, Muller and Al, they explain that the Olympic Games is also facing the crisis of mega events because the size of mega events has been decreasing since 2016 to avoid reproducing the gigantism and waste problem of the Sochi Olympic Games and the World Cup, Soccer World Cup in Brazil 2014. This crisis has continued until COVID-19 and even after, because there is fewer bidders to host the Olympic game, and they have the theory that the mega event would have reached the peak event maybe, and so they explain that the future of mega event like the Olympic game is thus quite uncertain. And there is a need to modernize the philosophy of the Olympic Games to make it more like a role model for the youth people. And in this context, Shanava explains the need to rejuvenate the Olympic brand to engage with new generation, notably with the Youth Olympic Games, the Olympic channel launched in 2016, and the new sport in the program of Paris Olympic Games. So this leads us to our research gap. It is now quite unclear how the launch of a new product like the Olympic Virtual Series could lead the Olympic movement to create a positive value. So the research question is the following. Under which condition can the interaction among the key stakeholders of the Olympic media ecosystem, i.e. the International Federation and the IOC, before and during the OVS, can lead them to co-create a positive joint value proposition for the IOC. So for the literature review, we rely on Kostowska and Al model of media ecosystem. They explain that the creation of value requires a specific set of dynamic capabilities and specific resources that need to be deployed to create value. And they also explain that there is different possible sources of value at the end of the value proposition deployment, such as the use of economic of scale, the speed of market, the access to particular resources, process innovation, knowledge spillover or reputation, and so on. And in the case of Olympic Games, we may make the hypothesis that it can be more about the reputation and the brand image. Still in the literature review, the World Economic Forum explains that there is now a very large diversity of media ecosystem in the world that create a strong competition between different content creators, and it becomes difficult to assign the value in this context because the consumer at the end can feel a bit lost in front of all the existing platforms that you can see on the screen. Still in the literature review, but now about esports, there is many scholars that depict esports as a global media ecosystem, such as Ketelut and collaborator, who highlight esports as a holistic media ecosystem. Vaughan and Freeman, who highlight esports as a multi-dimensional media ecosystem, but also Tobias Scholz, who explains that the esports industry has pushed the boundary of the media ecosystem and creates its own media landscape. And also Wong and Mang-Levis more recently, who explains that the esports ecosystem is characterized by the confluence of multiple interrelated laser industry of sports, media, and entertainment. This leads us to our research framework. With the observation of the Olympic Games, that we saw that the relationships between media and Olympic Games is in constant evolution between 1896 and 2016 with the social network and Olympic channel, because there was many technological evolutions that were broadcast with the Olympic Games, like the print media, the television, and so on, and now internet. And we rely on Kostowska and collaborator to study this. Like we choose to analyze. We follow a recommendation to choose to analyze what type of conditions are created for the Olympic media ecosystem actor and why and how they interact to create ecosystem advantage and to create a positive value. For the method, we conduct a qualitative analysis based on 7 semi-structured interviews, so 6 with international sporting federation representative and 1 with a game publisher. So in the sample, some international sporting federation did participate to the OVS, and 2 and 3 did not participate to the OVS. Then when we conduct the interview, we follow Castillo Montoya methodology with questions on their professional context, perception of the shift taken by the Olympic movement with the OVS, reason to join or not to join the OVS. Then we try to have more information about their esports strategy. And finally, we made a summary at the end of each interview and reminder, if necessary, between the questions. For the data analysis, we use the software NVivo QSR 12, which allow us to make do a categorical analysis, thematic analysis, with higher order nodes like organization of the OVS and first and second order nodes. Then I will present the result, so with 3 main parts. The first is the value creation objective of the OVS and the dependency of international federation and game publisher towards the IOC in the organizational process. The second will be about the key success factors for the OVS value creation proposition. And the last will be the OVS challenges and key area for improvements. So to begin with the objective, sorry, we found that the main objective for the OVS is to stay connected to the younger audience. And we then highlight, I will highlight inhibitor and facilitator of OVS value creation. We found 6 respondents out of 7 found a first inhibitor of OVS value creation, which was the lack of clarity around the OVS project, because the IF, they were asked to develop an esport event, but with almost no indication at the beginning. A second inhibitor was the disparity between the value creation objective and the deployment of the IOC esports strategy. The third one was a lack of consultation and coordination between IF and the IOC. So the IF, they explained that it was an issue for them because they lack information to know how to deploy their esport event for the OVS. And all of this quite inhibits the media ecosystem from generating value. With the quotes that you can see here, like the mistake that the IOC could make is to think that they are also the king of video game. I think they can totally miss it with OVS, since esports didn't wait the Olympic Games to succeed. And we can also add to this that in 2001, there was already the World Cyber Games that was, in a sense, similar to like an Olympic competition of esports, if we can say this. Fourth inhibitor was that the EF were quite unequal in terms of games they can choose to create a competition. So for instance, at the very beginning, the FIA know that they wanted Gran Turismo Sport, but for the other federation, like rowing federation, it was not easy to know how to organize a competition. Then we identified 3 different degrees of interdependency towards the IOC for the International Sporting Federation. So a first cluster of federations that were highly dependent to a participation in the OVS because they are seeking for more legitimacy towards the Olympic movement. So they want to be more close to the Olympic movement. A second cluster of international federations that wanted to take part to the IOC, but not at all costs. So they want to impose some condition. And the last cluster of international federations that were independent and that wanted to develop their own esports competition aside the competition of the IOC. So then this leads us to 2 first facilitators of the value creation. The first one would be to develop a more collaborative approach in the future between the IOC and the IF. The second facilitator would be to integrate more the game publisher in the governance process. Now about the key success factor of value creation. 4 respondents out of 7 highlight a first facilitator, which is the adequation between the OVS and Olympic value, namely excellence, friendship and respect, with the following quotes that the IOC tried to preserve the original ethos of the sports game, and in particular those of the Olympic game, by testing what can be popular and relevant for their current and potential audience without deviating too much of the Olympic movement within it. And a second facilitator with the integrity of the competition and its regulation. But for this, it was a bit an issue, because with some competition like rowing, it was impossible to verify the score because the participants were not participating with the same kind of machine, the same brand of machine. So regarding the authenticity of the different competition, we can see that some competition were contested uh, towards their authenticity, like sports, like the baseball one or the sailing one, whereas others were more approved about their authenticity towards sports, like the rowing one, the cycling one. And we found out that for the FIA and Gran Turismo, it was more an hybrid approach between sport and esports because when you play in a sim rig, this involves quite some physicality movement because you have to drive the steering wheel and use the pedals. Then a third facilitator highlighted by three respondents was the need to listen to practical recommendations to rely more on IOC key assets, such as deliver medals, promote the winner toward official ceremony, and also support the athlete towards visit of Olympic sites, so such as the Olympic Museum in Lausanne. So it means they can try to develop some money can buy activation that no one else in the world can do except the IOC. Still, in the key success factor, other practical implications were identified by respondents to fit more with IOC ambition, like for instance, to extend the OVS project to more powerful federations like the FIFA or the FIBA, to foster the engagement of more national federations associated within IF that are connected to OVS in order to have more participants also, and to create more intermediate steps to foster larger participation. Because aside Gran Turismo that have about 50,000 participants, some competition like rowing, it was just 380 participants, which was not a lot, I could say. Then the last part of the result were the challenge. So we highlight 6 different challenge. First, the financial accessibility, because not everyone can have the home trainer at home or a rowing machine to compete. The choice of the game, because if you want to generate mass participation, you need games that are more with more players. The geographical obstacle as well, because in some part of the world, like Latin America or Africa, it was impossible to participate to some competition. The timing to organize the OVS as well, because the IF were asked by the IOC to organize the OVS very quickly in less than 1 year. And also the lack of human resource expertise on esports inside the IF, because most IF did not have this expertise in-house, and some collaboration failure as well. So this leads us to our discussion. What lesson can we learn from the OVS? First, there is a need to clarify the expectation and objective to generate value in terms of brand image and reputation for the IOC. There is also a need to clarify the mission of all stakeholders related to the OVS and to make competition more accessible to as many people as possible. So in summary, there is 3 aspects about the strategy: clarify the IOC expectation with a targeted audience. Is it the esports fan or the connected athletes? Do we search for mass participation or large viewership? Do we choose esport or virtual sport as event or games? And organization, a need to clarify stakeholder mission and task by defining a clear time frame, a clear guideline for the IF, listen to the IF request and improve coordination between Olympic movement member and improve the public communication as well, because there were not enough communication. So there was not a lot of view online on YouTube and on the Olympic channel for those events. And accessibility, as I said, include all geographical zones like Africa and LATAM in a future event. Try to promote offline event as well, like it was the case on the Olympic Esports Week of Singapore this year. Try to select some free-to-play games, and try to select cross-platform games as well in order that it can be more easy for everyone to play, and select low-cost game device on platforms. So this leads us to our model that we want to submit for publication. So we identified 6 different key inhibitors of the value creation and 6 different key facilitators of the value creation that act on the ability of the core stakeholder of the Olympic movement to organize the competition with the help of the DreamHack. But we also identify some key challenge of the value creation, and all of this shows the complexity of the Olympic movement governance and value creation proposition deployment for the Olympic virtual series. So as every research, our research also has some limit. We did only 7 interviews. Maybe we could have 1 or 2 more international federation. It would have been interested to ask more game publisher as well. We tried to ask the IOC, but they declined to participate. And same for DreamHack, we didn't success to have them. And in the future, it can be interesting to study the fan. And in conclusion, there is quite a mixed success according to the IF for the Olympic Virtual Series. Also a lack of organizational dynamic capabilities between key players in the Olympic media ecosystem. And there is an advice to listen to the IF to co-create more value. And in perspective, follow the development of the Olympic Esports Week. I put here a picture of the sailing event of Olympic Esports Week of Singapore that I put. So thank you for listening my presentation.
Thank you, Florian, for your concrete contribution about the Olympic Virtual Series. I say concrete because, as you said, something happened in Singapore, and is not just a virtual aspect of the topic. Is really a concrete step to develop esports. So I think there is a marvelous connection to complete our discussion since yesterday about the position of esport inside or outside or in the border of Olympic committee. So thank you for your presentation and for your next publication. So if colleagues have some exchange, perhaps if you can stop your diaporama so we can see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Problem.
So, if some of you want to contribute to what Florian explained about June 23, about what's happening in Singapore. So just to say for colleagues that since a few weeks we have a new president of French Olympic Committee, and this new president is very close to this aspect of Olympic Virtual Series. And I think that Florian and other colleagues, as Nicolas, have a great contact with the president of French committee, French Olympic Committee about this topic. And so he is really interested about our exchange yesterday and today. So, who want Miss Wang? You are ready to?
Yeah, actually, I have a question for Florian, because you mentioned you also tried the virtual sports games like in Singapore during that week.
Yeah, I was in Singapore. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering what would you consider if it can be organized to a sports competition? Because for me, like from my understanding now, is like I think it's really hard to organize it to make it become a meaningful competition, like do the measurement and or make sure it's like very fair and I mean in the in terms of organization, I think it's kind of hard to become a competition as regular sports. I wonder what your thoughts about this kind.
Thank you for your question, Kwan. I think there is the issue of the machines that you need to use. For instance, in rowing or cycling, that not everyone can have this at home. So this is a limit for the democratization of this practice and how many people can practice this. But I'm not sure if I answer to your question. Your question was more on. Can you repeat, please, Joss?
Yeah, because I think it's in terms of the activity itself, like rowing or cycling. There's relatively more like simple movements there. So it's
Yes,
easy to measure and to compare the results, like to make the comparison between other participants. But then I'm wondering, like taekwondo and this kind of more complicated activities, can you really like organize it in a way like to measure their physical ability, like efforts, like to let participants to compete together?
I think when I saw virtual taekwondo, you really need a lot of space to practice this. So I think it's a very big limit because not everyone will have this space at home or in a taekwondo club to practice this. And maybe this can cost a lot. Also, there is a cost with I don't know in English, but the headset that you need to have, the virtual reality headset. So I'm not sure if this can really become part of the competition. But one thing I want to say is that for me, the term esport was a bit an issue with this Olympic Esport Week, because aside some competition, for me, it was not all about esports. Like the main competition for me, which is esport, was Gran Turismo 7. But when you look at, for instance, cycling, for me, it's more you are performing a sport, just you are not moving like cycling in the nature, but you are really doing a sport. But you have a screen in front of you to see how you position yourself against your opponent, and you have some boosts that you can activate. So it's more a gamified sport. And I had this feeling that overall there was more gamified sports in the program than actual esports game. And also maybe also when you see that Rocket League was just an exhibition, maybe it's an issue, because for me, Rocket League is an esport game, and it would have been totally interesting to have Rocket League in the program and more esports game like Rocket League or maybe League of Legends like in Asia. when we look at the Southeast Asian game or the Asian game, esports is already a medal event. So I have this feeling that with this Olympic Esports Week, it's already maybe a bit behind the level of Asian game and Southeast Asian game, because I live in Hanoi for 8 months this year, and I have the opportunity to saw some competition of Arena of Valor, for instance. And I think it can be interesting in the future to implement this kind of maybe mobile game and MOBA like Arena of Valor. But the issue will be how this game will stay in how they will fit with the Olympic values. That is the question. And that is a difficult question. I don't have really the answer for this.
Okay,
But
thank you, Florian. I think in the future we can have a lot of exchange with Daniel and other colleagues from international committee, Pierre de Coubertin, about this concept of Olympic education. So I think it will be a good opportunity to exchange today and to see after how we can contribute to increase this exchange. For me, this intervention was really a pleasure to be organized. But I see that Elvira want talk. Elvira, please.
Thank you very much. This is just a short comment and question to Florian.
Yeah.
Your presentation was dense and had a lot of information. Sometimes, I'm sorry, I honestly say I could not follow because I do not have enough knowledge. Okay. I would like to refer to the part of your presentation that talks about the Olympic movement or the Olympic institutions that wish to draw attention of the youth to sport.
Yeah.
And maybe I did not understand well your message. But I would like to say that if the IOC, the Olympic movement, wishes to draw attention of the youth, it is not for any other reason but for their mental and physical health, and to try to eliminate what is famously used in many circumstances, to eliminate couch potatoes. That means youth that is not doing anything except watching a screen. Okay. So the IOC, maybe I misunderstood, and this is what I would like you to clarify. I understood that maybe the IOC is afraid of not having enough athletes at the Olympic Games, and this is why they are trying to draw attention of youth to the Olympic values and the Olympic movement. Maybe I misunderstood. So this is something that I would like you to tell me if I misunderstood, actually.
Thank you for your remark, Elvira. For me, how I can say this, regarding the Olympic regarding the Olympic Games, there is a crisis on how they can still be interesting for the youth. And that is in this context that they are implementing new sports game in the Olympic game, like the basket free, like the breaking, this type, also the climbing. And I think esports is in this continuation of practices that are liked by the youth. And I disagree with the fact that esports players are couch potatoes. Like, I'm esports player, but I'm doing athletics and a lot of sport aside this. I think there are some studies that highlight the fact that esports players also do sports, but I also agree that it's in some aspects esports, as it can be the fact for sports, can be addictive. I also agree. And this is also maybe a responsibility for the Olympics to show the good aspects of esports and not the bad aspect of esports, because esports can also have some bad aspects, like you said, some people can become coach potatoes. It is a fact, but some people are not coach potatoes, and I know for a fact that now in many esports professional team, you need to follow some sports, traditional sports, if you want to stay in the team. Otherwise, the team will fire the player if he did not practice sports. In many esports team, it is already the case in major esports team. In major esports competition like League of Legends or Counter-Strike, for instance, the player need to do some traditional sport. For the brand image also of the esports team, it's quite important. And it's important for the sponsors of the team that associate their brand image to the team. So they didn't want to have coach potatoes. So I agree with you that it can be an issue, and it is important to do some prevention, maybe more prevention about the negative aspect of gaming. I hope I answer your remark.
Yes, thank you. But I would just like to repeat the main reason why the Olympic movement or the IOC wishes to draw youth to the Olympic movement is for the sake of the youth, not for the sake of the Olympic movement.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Gilles, I think your micro is muted. We cannot hear you.
Thank you, Florian. What I mean is, when will be held the next Olympic virtual series?
Actually, we don't know because there was no French representative of politics in Singapore. So there was some rumor about Paris, but it seems quite uncertain. Maybe it will be not in Paris. So maybe it can be in 2 years if it's in the continuation of the OVS. Like the OVS were in 2021, the Olympic Esports Week in 2023. So actually, I don't know. I don't have the answer. So we will follow this if they want to do this before the Olympic Game of Paris, or if they want to do this as a new product, like I was saying, product that is aside Olympic Games. So maybe it can be every 2 years or something like this.
Okay, thank you. It was just to be aware of the next steps about what will happen. And I think that your presentation can be useful to understand the next steps, and also to see that about Olympic education. We have also some vigilance to develop. And thank you, Elvira, for your remarks about the aspect of the motivation of Olympic movement. Is there a last question for this second seminar, or a last remark? So just to say that it was a seminar which was 2 hours long. I hope it was not too long for you. For me, it was a pleasure to hear four sides of what we can develop about esports, about virtual world. So thank you to exchange about philosophical aspect, but also about institutional aspect. So thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Florian. Thank you, Kian. Thank you, Bruno, for your help to exchange.